Let's listen to a short story, The Monkey's Paw, by W. W. Jacobs, Level A2, Oxford Reading University.
1. One night, the Whites sat in their living room. It was cold and wet outside, but the fire was bright and warm. The son and the father were playing chess. The mother was sewing. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. "He is here," the old man said, smiling. He opened the door and let the guest in. They chatted in the hall for a bit. Then Mr. White returned to the room. A tall man with wide shoulders followed him. "This is Sergeant Major Morris," the old man said. Morris shook hands with everyone and sat by the fire. Mrs. White brought drinks. Soon the sergeant's eyes became brighter. He began to talk about his travels, strange lands, and unusual people. "Your stories about India are very interesting," Mr. White said. "I would like to go there one day." "England is better," said the sergeant and shook his head. "I would like to see their ancient buildings and magicians," the old man continued. "By the way, you started telling me a story about a monkey's paw yesterday. What was it about?" "Oh, it is nothing," said Morris. He clearly didn't want to talk about it. However, the rest of the family was interested in the story. Morris took something out of his pocket. It was a small, dry monkey's paw. Herbert and Mr. White looked at it with interest. "And what's so special about it?" the old man asked. "An old magician gave it to me," Morris replied. "In his opinion, fate controls people's lives. When people try to change their fate, something awful happens. So, the magician made this paw. It could make wishes come true. 3 people could make 3 wishes each." The Whites laughed, but the soldier gave them a serious look, and they fell quiet. "So, did you make 3 wishes?" Herbert asked with a smile. "I did," Morris replied quietly. His face grew white. "Did it work?" "It did." "And has someone else used it already?" Mrs. White asked. "One man has. His last wish was to die. That was how I got the paw," the soldier said. "Why do you keep it? You can't use it anymore," the old man noticed. "I don't know. I wanted to sell it. However, I don't think anyone will believe that it has special powers." Suddenly, the soldier threw the paw into the fire. Mr. White let out a cry. He quickly took it out. "If you don't need it, I will take it," he said. "You may have it, but if something happens, it is your problem, not mine," Morris responded. "How do you use it?" Mr. White asked. "You hold it up in your right hand and say your wish out loud. But here's my advice. Burn it and forget what I said."
Do you want to learn English from your favorite movie characters? Then you need EWA app. You will learn grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation from movie heroes every day. Check out app ewa.com.
When Morris left, Herbert said, "Wish to be a king, father. Then mother will stop telling you what to do." Mrs. White looked at him angrily, and Herbert laughed. Mr. White took the paw and looked at it for some time. "I don't know what to wish for," he said slowly. "I have everything I need." "Well, wish for 200 pounds. Money is always useful," suggested Herbert. His father held up the paw with a smile. "I wish for 200 pounds, he said. Then he suddenly cried out in fear. Mrs. White and Herbert ran toward him. "It moved!" he shouted. "When I said the words, it moved in my hand. But don't worry, I'm all right." The family sat in the living room. No one said anything. Outside, the wind was blowing loudly. It made everyone nervous. Finally, the parents went upstairs to their bedroom. "I am sure you will find the money in a big bag on your bed," laughed Herbert. 2. The next morning was bright and sunny. The paw lay on the side of the table. Everything was as usual. "I suppose old soldiers are all the same," Mrs. White complained. "They say stupid things to make fun of us, and we believe everything. I don't understand what is scary about this paw. How could 200 pounds hurt you?" "Maybe they will fall on your head," Herbert said. "Anyway, I'm going to work. Please don't become rich without me." At lunch, Mr. and Mrs. White were talking about the paw. Suddenly, they heard a knock on the door. Mrs. White opened it and saw a man. He wore expensive clothes. At once, the 200 pounds appeared in her mind. The old woman brought the stranger into the room. He looked nervous. She waited for him to speak, but he didn't say anything for a long time. Then he finally spoke. "I am from the factory where your son worked." "Has anything happened to Herbert?" Mrs. White cried. "Did he get hurt?" "I am sorry," the visitor said. "He got hurt badly. But he doesn't feel any pain anymore." It took time for her to realize what he meant. Mr. White took his wife by the hand. "He was our only son," he told the visitor. The man walked to the window. He avoided looking at the old couple. "The company would like you to know they are sorry," he continued. "They aren't in any way responsible for the accident. However, they want to give you some money. I hope it will support you at least a little." Mr. White stood up, shaking. "How much?" he asked. 200 pounds, was the reply. Mrs. White let out a cry. Mr. White lost his senses and fell to the floor. 3. The old couple put their dead son to the ground. For some time, they couldn't believe that he was actually dead. They expected something good to make their life easier, but nothing happened. A week later, Mr. White woke up in the middle of the night. His wife was standing by the window crying. "Come back to bed," he said. "You will be cold." "My son is colder now," she replied. The bed was warm, and the old man was tired. He went back to sleep. Suddenly, he woke up again. "Where is the monkey's paw?" Mrs. White cried. "Did you destroy it?" "No, it is in the living room," Mr. White replied. "How wonderful," the woman said. "Why haven't we thought about it before? We have 2 more wishes. Go take the paw and wish for our son to be alive again." Mr. White threw the cover off the bed and jumped to his feet. "Are you crazy? Please, go get it and make a wish. Please," the old woman cried, pulling him toward the door. Mr. White went down to the living room. Everything was dark around him. He took the paw from the table. Suddenly, he shook with fear. "What if my dead son appears in front of me?" he thought. The old man went back to the bedroom. His wife's face was white and scary. "Wish!" she cried. At first, Mr. White refused, but Mrs. White shouted at him angrily, "Bring my son back!" The old man raised his hand and said quietly, "I wish for my son to be alive again." The monkey's paw fell to the floor. Mr. White sat down in the chair tiredly. He was shaking. The old woman stood by the window and looked out. Minutes passed, but nothing happened. Then the old couple got back into bed. Suddenly, they heard a knock on the front door. "What was that?" Mrs. White asked. "Probably a rat," Mr. White replied. His wife sat up in bed. The sound repeated. "It is Herbert!" the woman shouted, and ran to the door. Her husband caught her by the arm. "Don't let it in! Are you afraid of your own son? Let me go! I must open the door!" She ran downstairs. She tried to open the lock, but it was dark, and she couldn't find it. Her husband got down on his hands and knees. He was looking for the paw. "I need to find it before the thing outside gets into the house," he thought. Then he heard a sound from downstairs. His wife managed to open the lock. At the same moment, he found the paw. He held it up and pronounced his last wish. Suddenly, the knocking stopped. Mrs. White opened the door, and the cold wind flew inside. Mr. White felt it against his face. Then he heard the crying of his wife. The old man ran down the stairs. They looked at the road under the light of the street lamp. It was quiet and empty.
Hit the like button and subscribe to get more free audiobooks like this. And now, listen to another English story.